Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you. So, keeping on with our post-ban list decks, the ones that we're testing on ladder. Of course, I can't really test out stuff like Sprite or Adventure decks on ladder until the actual ban list goes into effect, right? Because then I can add in the extra copies that are lifted off the ban list. But I did want to continue to cover decks that are affected by the list, so I decided to move on next to Horus Naturia. Horus Naturia is, of course, affected by the list by the banning of the Calamity. I don't know why I'm having trouble spelling this word all of a sudden. The Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. As you can see, at the current time that I'm recording this, and also at the time that I played these games on ladder, Calamity was not banned yet. So just testing it out before the hits actually take effect. Now, there are a lot of people who just refer to this deck as Calamity Turbo, and similarly, I've kind of seen the sentiment of like, oh, I can't wait till Horus Naturia isn't good anymore, because then they just can't just auto-win by turboing out Calamity. If you think that this deck is going anywhere because it loses Calamity, then you are going to be sorely mistaken. I do think that a lot of people will just stop playing this deck when Calamity gets banned, but let me tell you something. After doing some light testing in the new ranked season, I went from Diamond 5 to Diamond 3 with a record of 9-3, playing this variant without Calamity. So this deck does not at all need it in order to make plays. And in fact, going first to this deck is so good that it almost feels like cheating. I think that if this deck were more popular, it would actually not only just be upper rogue, but probably even just tier 3, right? So this deck is not really doing anything too different from the loss of Calamity in terms of its main strategy, right? We're typically looking to use Camellia with a number of Horus monsters in order to make a bunch of level 12 synchros. Of course, most notably is going to be the Crimson Dragon. So, basic combo line for those who are not familiar with how this deck plays is, you open some amount of Naturia, like, let's just say you open Camellia and King Sark, right? You can use normal summon the Camellia, sending the Sacred Tree to add the Blessing. Then you can use King Sark to start setting up the Horus monsters in the graveyard. You can use Camellia plus your first Horus monster for the Crimson Dragon. Crimson Dragon actually gets to activate its first effect in this deck because we play Synchro Rumble, which means we do have a search target, so you get to add that as well. From there, you can use either Rumble and or Blessing to bring back your Camellia, summon another 8 off of the King Sark. Then you can go into one of your level 12 synchros that you can make generically, either Brave Musarao or Final Sigma. I find myself usually going for the Brave Musarao because this combo, while easy to pull off, will often eat most, if not every single card in your hand. So having the Brave Musarao to fulfill your hand on the opponent's turn is very good. But you could also play a Geomathmech Final Sigma in the extra monster zone to have a sort of towers in addition to your big level 12. So the idea here is that we're summoning 2 level 12s off of Crimson Dragon, Blazar and Supernova, as part of our turn 1 combo. You might wonder how that's feasible. Well, after you summon Crimson Dragon and, either Sigma or Musarao, you, on your turn, will activate Crimson Dragon to turn it into the Cosmic Blazar Dragon. From there, we still have the King Sark and the ability to summon out more 8s. And remember that we not only have the Blessing off of Tree sent by Camellia, we also have the Synchro Rumble added by Crimson Dragon, which means we have another way to revive the Camellia. So you revive Camellia a second time, bring out another 8, and then do a third Synchro Summon for Crimson Dragon again. Then during your opponent's turn, you activate Crimson Dragon and then go for the Red Supernova. To be fair, this is kind of how I should have been playing the deck in the first place with Calamity, setting up the Blazar on my turn, and then, well, instead of Nova, it would have just been Calamity on the opponent's turn. But again, you don't need Calamity at all to experience a lot of success with this deck. Red Supernova is our Calamity replacement here, and the big effect that we're looking to get off is this one here. Once per turn, when your opponent's monster effect is activated, or when an opponent's monster declares an attack, quick effect, you can activate this card, banish this card, also banish all cards your opponent controls. And then once per turn during your next end phase after this card is banished by its own effect, special summon this card. Blazar, for those who don't know, also banishes itself to activate its effects. It can be an Omni Negate, it can negate and destroy any summon, or it can also end the battle phase when the opponent's monster declares an attack. And for those who are wondering, these big synchros that banish themselves to activate their effects will still come back, because Crimson Dragon says this is treated as a synchro summon. So because it is treated as a synchro summon, that means that Blazar and Supernova are treated as being properly summoned, which means they will come back after being banished by their own effects. Although Supernova doesn't come back until your next end phase, so it'll be the end of your follow-up turn after you use this effect. And let's be real, if you've banished your opponent's whole field, you're probably just going to win very easily on your next turn. So it almost doesn't even matter if Supernova comes back, but it does for those who are wondering about that. So yeah, I mean, this deck, obviously, like I said, is extremely good at going first, but even going second is not the most difficult thing in the world, because if nothing else, you can just summon a bunch of big Horus monsters and, like, beat your opponent up with them, right? If nothing else, what this archetype is very good at. You might wonder, Horus the Black Flame Deity, is this needed? Is this card even good? This card, you don't have to play it. You could absolutely play this deck without it, but I like having a singular copy. I would only play the Black Flame Deity in a Horus deck where you're also playing 3 of the field spell, and even then, I would only play it if I had room, but we are on 3 of the field spell, and I do feel like I have room. This, again, is actually a lot better than it looks, or might read on paper. I've been finding this card to be extremely useful against SP Little Knight, because what a lot of people will do is they'll try to summon Little Knight and then banish your King Sark, but if they do that while you have Black Flame Deity in your hand, you can just special this and then wipe all the monsters on their field, which is including the Little Knight. And the cool thing is, the summon and wipe happen in the same effect, so it's not like your opponent can Little Knight and banish your Horus, the Black Flame Deity, and itself. They can do that if you have another monster for them to banish, but if you have no monsters on your field when you're summoning this, your opponent cannot SP dodge to save itself. Well, I guess it could on their own monster as well, but moral of the story is, this card is good against SP, so I like maining it. You don't have to main it if you don't want to, but I like playing the single copy, because, again, we are on 3 of the walls of the Imperial Tomb. Other notable change I have made to this deck is the inclusion of Cypher Gear Gamma. This was actually a suggestion from Stream Chat that I really like. I know I said at one point, like I think a year ago, I made a video about like about Gamma where I was like, fuck this stupid card, I'm never playing it again. But this is actually a deck where Gamma really does shine, because between, you know, the Walls of the Imperial Tomb and the King Sark and the Imseti hand effect, there are so many instances in which our opponent will try to disrupt us while we have no monsters on the field, making Gamma, I think, perfectly viable here. I have Omega as a possible 8 to go into for more hand ripping if they do it on my turn, but I haven't summoned this yet. If you don't own a copy, you can definitely get away without playing it. You could maybe play like a Baron instead, I guess, and then like do Gamma plus a Horus monster, but like, yeah, that's not something that's really going to happen that often, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Honestly, I could have cut Geomathic Final Sigma as well, if you're looking for more extra deck room, because so far I've really found myself only summoning the Brave Musaro, because again, the hand refill is like so important for the opponent's turn, because your hand is often going to be so empty. All in all, when it comes to both the main and the extra, there is a lot of flexibility when it comes to like putting the extra deck together. Same with the Naturia synchros, like Beast, I think you do need, even though you don't summon it that often at all. Barkion, I think I've summoned like maybe once ever, not even in this iteration, but when we were playing Calamity, there's like one game where I summoned a Barkion, so not required if you don't have a copy of that, but no, I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to say about this deck. So we're gonna break it down card by card, and then we'll look at some well, it's not post-banless games, but again, we'll do some testing on ladder with our post-banless build. So we are on 1 Cypher Driver, 3 Naturia Mole Cricket, 1 Naturia Sunflower, 3 Maxi, 2 Cypher Gear Gamma, 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, 3 Naturia Camellia, 3 Imseti Glory of Horus, 1 Dumatef Blessing of Horus, 1 Hoppy Guidance of Horus, 1 Kibesnif Protection of Horus. We have 1 Horus the Black Flame Deity, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Synchro Rumble. We got 3 Walls of the Imperial Tomb, 3 King Sarcophagus, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Naturia Naturia Blessing, 2 Infinite Permanence, and then 3 Naturia Sacred Tree. That'll do it for our 42 card main deck. For our extra deck, we're on 1 Naturia Beast, 1 Naturia Barkion, 1 Cypher Lord Omega, 1 Cosmic Blazar Dragon, 1 Geomathmech Final Sigma, 1 Red Supernova Dragon, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Brave Musarao, 1 Crimson Dragon, 1 number 38 Hope Harbinger Titanic Galaxy, 1 number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, 1 the Zombie Vampire, 1 Divine Arsenal Awe, Zeus Sky Thunder, 1 Lake Kribo, 1 IP Masquerena, and then 1 SP Little Knight. There's our list. Let's watch these games. Okay, so our first opponent is going to be on Snake Eye. If this is the game that I'm thinking of, this will not only show a typical turn 1 line, but also is just a good back and forth game as well. So, yeah, wow, this is like a custom opening hand. This is great. We can start with Imseti and pitch the Sacred Tree to not only add the King Sark and then get a draw, but then Sacred Tree F also gets a search as well. We can grab a Blessing here. If I hadn't drawn Camellia, I would have searched, not even Camellia itself, but Mole Cricket, actually. That way we can set up the Mole Cricket in the yard as well. Funnily enough, I did not even have to cross out this Imperm, and it probably would have been better for me to just save the cross out in case they had Nib, because we don't need this Camellia Ascending Tree to get a search to actually do our combo lines. Like, we already have more than enough here. So, in hindsight, yeah, I should have saved the cross out for Nib and just let the Imperm resolve, but gonna bring back Imseti and make Crimson Dragon. Crimson Dragon, like I mentioned, the profile does have a search target, so we'll grab the Synchro Rumble. But here, I already have 2 Blessings, so I can just pitch the Rumble for the King Sark, right? Not that big of a deal. So, Blessing to bring back the Camellia, sync it with the Hoppy that we just sent and brought back, making our second 12. This will be the Super Heavy Samurai Brave Musarao. Crimson Dragon F will activate on the Musarao, and then we can summon out our Cosmic Blazar. Always feel a lot better once I've got that Omni negate on the field. So, I'm gonna pitch Call By. I don't think we'll need it here. Once again, using our Blessing to bring back Camellia, and then we'll bring back that Dumatef we just sent, and now we are summoning Crimson Dragon yet again. We're all set up to go into Supernova, which I'm gonna do just during the opponent's draw phase, just to make sure we have the Supernova established as early as possible. Opponent's gonna chain Wanted, and I'm going to chain Maxi. And the reason I actually chained Maxi here was so that way I can draw 3 cards instead of 2 off of Musarao. Because this says when your opponent activates a spell, trap, card, or effect, draw until you have 3 cards. So by pitching C, we can now draw 3. Plus, you know, of course, everything that Maxi is going to draw us too this turn. So, yep. Here's Musarao, getting us a few cards. Alright, they're going to lead with the Pressure Planet Raid South to add Fenrir here. That is actually pretty annoying, the Fenrir. Potentially. Fenrir F is going to add the Unicorn. Now, from here, if I recall correctly, they pitched a field spell for Diabel. Now, here, I do make a misplay. I should have Supernova'd in response, because they are going to set Subversion. And I'm not going to have many more opportunities to activate, well, any more in this case, to activate the Supernova effect. Now, I could have activated Cosmic Blazar there to negate the Subversion, but the problem is, then that will just trigger the Fenrir, which means they'll just banish the Supernova face down anyway. So, by letting it resolve here, I get to keep my Cosmic Blazar. But again, that was a misplay. I should have just used Supernova's effect when Diabel activated. Then, these would have both been banished. They would have still gotten Subversion. But then when they flip Subversion, I can just use Cosmic Blazar to negate it, right? So. But even more importantly, the main thing I'm worried about here is that they can now pull my Supernova out of the spell trap and onto their field, which is it's a little bit of a problem if that happens. So, all right, they're gonna Baron try to pop Blazar. I'll Blazar Chain to negate. They're going to Baron Chain to negate. So, at least the Baron Omni is out of the way. We don't have to worry about that. Our opponent's actually kind of quickly running out of resources here. I'm gonna Ash Blossom the 1-for-1. They only have 2 cards left in hand. And I don't think odds are particularly high that their plays. They also normal summoned. They normal summoned some random Ash Blossom. Oh wait, here it is. Summoned, yeah. They summoned Ash Blossom 2 to go into the Baron. So I know they don't have a normal summon left. They do get to banish my Musarao and then swing in here. But we do have those draws as well. So it looks like they're going to make an SP here. Okay, yeah, so this is the interaction I was talking about before, right? How lots of people will just go SP on the Kingsark, and then you can use Horus the Black Flame Deity from hand, summon it, and then send the SP. This does proc their temple, to be fair, but I still think it was worth it in this situation. Like, I think I'd rather deal with Flamberge than SP. Because of Temple, either way, they're going to summon my red Supernova to their field. There's not much I can do about that. But what I can do is use Blazar against the Flamberge F to negate and destroy it, right? Now, when Flamberge's effect... Oh, but then... Yeah, they I was going to say when Flamberge's effect activates, we can use Gamma, but then I forgot they don't even have two level 1 fire. They don't have any level 1 fires in here, so there's no Flamberge F at all. But yeah, as soon as I throw down the Imseti, then that's where the Supernova comes out. Now, I can't just outright battle and use Kingsark, because Supernova's effect will proc before Kingsark's does. So I have to make number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. And then now we're going to put a few more bodies on the field just to make sure that we have lethal here. I guess we could have done it with Sunflower as well, but... yeah, either way here, I just use Sunflower's effects to negate the Supernova. So that way it doesn't, of course, banish my whole field. Now we get to use Kingsark F, send it, and then swing in with everything else for lethal. So I feel like this is a really, really good demonstration of what this deck is capable of. Not only did we play against the best deck of the meta, but we also did our turn 1 combo line, got disrupted, even had the Supernova change control to the opponent, and we still played through it using not only our big synchros, but our Horus and our Naturia engines. I think like this is textbook what this deck is capable of. And again, if you're one of those people who thought like, well, this deck was just Calamity Turbo, so now it doesn't do anything, you are sorely mistaken. But got a few more games to check out. Let's see the next one. Okay, this one is going to be up against Mikanko. So I'll have to see if we won the coin flip. No, okay, so that's interesting, yeah. And this is actually something I've talked about kind of recently, where, like, a lot of people think of Mikanko as this going second OTK deck, but if you look at the stats on Untapped, Mikanko actually has, like, a notably higher going first win rate. And, indeed, the deck does elect to go first more times than not. Now, here they're just going to set 2 and then pass. It doesn't seem like they had that much engine in hand, but it does probably mean they have a lot of disruption, so I'm going to be a little wary of that. I already have Imseti, so I'm going to use the field spell here to add Horus the Black Flame Deity, in case that ends up coming up here. They have a Gamma for the Imseti. I have an Ash, but I'm going to let that resolve. Because if I Ash Blossom Gamma, then it's going to be in hand for later in the turn. And I can still summon Imseti. Because a lot of people forget this, but the field spell counts as Kingsark while on the field. So, definitely worth noting here. Gonna go Mole Cricket. I think we opened Mole Cricket, right? Yeah, Mole Cricket for Camellia. Battle Phase, I should not have done this, because now Driver is just in their graveyard. They can use Gamma again. So that was a misplay on my part, but... I think it's overall a fairly minor one. I don't think it's like that important, but yeah, there was no need for me to battle there. I will sync for Naturia Beast. That brings back the Mole Cricket, but unfortunately for me, it does leave me susceptible to Super Poly. Super Poly going to fuse the Mole Cricket and Beast for, of course, the Mud Dragon of the Swamp. This does proc my Imseti, though. I'm going to use it to get rid of their other back row card. I don't know why they call it Earth here. That doesn't make any sense. Imseti is dark and also doesn't target, but sure. And that's another Super Poly. So I actually feel pretty good going into my opponent's turn. Like, yeah, it looks like we're in a bad spot, but our opponent is not in a much better spot. And we actually have not just one, but 2 pieces of disruption. As we saw in the last game, Horus the Black Flame Deity is like very viable disruption during your opponent's turn while you control Kingsark or Horus monsters. So I'm going to Ash the Hare. Because I think I'd rather them have another Mikanko monster than another equip spell here for sure. So they can search the Rivalry and go for Huli. That's fine. And it's actually fine because of Horus the Black Flame Deity's other effect, which we're going to use here in a moment. Naturia Blessing, not a bad top deck, and I started by activating that and going for the Camellia. Camellia F will send, of course, another Tree F to add yet another Blessing. Now from here, we're going to use the other Horus the Black Flame Deity effect by sending a card on the field to the graveyard, on our hand or field to the graveyard, we can send any card on the field to the graveyard. So the cool thing about this is I can send my Imseti that is on the field to the graveyard, and then I can bring it back later because I still have the field spell in play. Also, this effect does not target, and it sends, it does not destroy, making it a very, very potent effect. And it doesn't even matter they chain Mikanko Rivalry here, because, like, yeah, they can equip the Angelica's Ring, but again, I'm just going to send the Huli in the same chain link. So, and we even get to draw off of the field spell effect for good measure. It's so cool. Alright, I'm going to add another Imseti, even though I already summoned one. I just want King Sark to be able to summon a lot of Horus bodies here. And, yes, I was going to say, as soon as I start threatening to do that, they're just going to immediately concede. But, yeah, so I think that is a good showing of, yet again, like, I really like that we got multiple games where Horus the Black Flame Deity is really useful, because, like, I think, like, a lot of people, when this card first dropped in MD and I read it, I was like, wow, it sucks that the boss monster is worse than the whole archetype. But really, it's just more that the boss monster is more situational than the rest of the archetype. And again, I would not advocate playing this in every single deck that has any amount of Horus cards. I would only play it in decks that play 3 of the field spell, but in those decks, it's a lot better than you might think it would be. We do have a couple more games to watch. Let's see the next one. Okay, for this one, we're going to be playing against Horus Tearlament. It's interesting. I keep saying that I think Horus Tier is probably not the most optimal build, but it is still by far the most popular, so maybe it will end up being optimal. Who knows? I'm not an A tier expert by any means, so. Our hand is looking pretty darn good here. Opponent's going to leave with Shiren. I'm going to chain Ash Blossom. They have a Gamma for it, which is a little surprising in tier. I got not the most surprising. And then we're going to chain Maxi. So, a couple of things here about this chain link, and why it's so important to use Ash Blossom first is, in case they have a negate for it, like, I would much rather the one-off disruption of Ash get negated than the entire turn, you know, restricting effect of Maxi. Also here, I think that Ash Blossom, when it comes to using it against Tearlaments, it's kind of hard for Ash Blossom to be really good. So I like using it against Shiren. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think Shiren is the best Ash target against Tearlaments because you stop 3 things with one Ash Blossom. You stop the Shiren body from hitting the board. You stop the send from hand to graveyard, which they very often want to do. And you also stop the mill 3. So I am extremely satisfied with how this chain link played out. We get to Maxi and get draws for the Gamma, or a draw for the Gamma, and then we get to get a draw for the Shiren. And indeed, you saw they pitched a Havness from hand to the yard. Like I said, Ash Blossom is like the best, or Shiren is the best thing to Ash Blossom, I think, in the tier matchup. But I wouldn't always go out of my way to save Ash for Shiren. Like, if my opponent leads normal summon Reinhardt and I have Ash Blossom, I'll just use it there, too. That's fine. But Ash Blossom is particularly not that great against Kiklos because he can only stop one of the 2 effects, right? So. Alright, looks like they're going for IP, Kiklos. They searched a Meta Noise with one other back row, which I'm going to guess is either Crime or Solic because they didn't search either of them. Have all 3 King Sark. This hand's really weird. It's like all engine, and like multiple copies of the same engine pieces. Looks like their other card was Heartbeat for the King Sark, but again, we have 3, so it's totally fine. Gonna send the Sacred Tree and Kibesnif, Tree F to add Blessing. Summon back Kibesnif, and then finally we'll send one of these 2 Mole Crickets, send our Dumatef, and then pull that out onto the field. Normal Camellia, send another Tree, Tree F to add another Blessing. And I'm gonna move straight to battle phase, even though there is the Meta Noise. What I can do is chain the Blessing, use the Synchro Summon effect, and then now I'll sync the Naturia Camellia with the whatever monster they're trying to book, right? I'm just going to go for the Brave Musara O here. And if I end up needing like a little bit more damage, I could also just Blessing for Camellia too. The other reason why it was important to Blessing there is that Meta Noise says, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, change the face-down defense position, then send a Tearlaments monster from your deck to the graveyard. So by removing the target from the field, the Meta Noise cannot resolve, and therefore it cannot send a tier monster from the deck to the graveyard. So get to dodge that pretty nicely there. That was a pretty short but sweet duel there. showing a kind of going second game. I want to show at least one going second game and demonstrate how, like, yeah, obviously going second for a deck like this is not as good as going first, but we can just summon a bunch of, as long as you've got a King Sark, you can just summon 4 big dudes, and that's good enough. One last game before we finish off, let's see that one. And we got Snake Eye yet again for our final opponent for the video. Alright, let's see how this one plays out. I kind of don't remember this one. Okay, so we're going first. This hand's fine. I mean, yeah, we have King Sark, Sacred Tree, Camellia. Not too much more you could ask for. Maybe Call By or Crossout would be good here. Okay, so King Sark gonna send the tree, and of course Imseti. And yep, here is the Maxi for exactly what I was talking about before. Or that's what I was talking about, Call By or Crossout before, right? So. Yeah, here I'm not going to give them any draws. I'll just go Mole Cricket, Imperm, Pass. That's a decent amount of disruption. Plus the Black Flame Deity might end up coming up too, because we do have King Sark on the field, so. Oh, this was brutal. Imperm on Mole Cricket to force it, and then also Gamma on the actual Mole Cricket effect? That's brutal, but very good on the opponent's part. Very well played. They're going to then normal summon Poplar. I'm going to Imperm the Poplar. I don't normally do this, like... But here was my thought process at the time, right? I was like, okay, if it's Snake Eye, then they've already used their normal, and it's going to be really hard for them to have follow-up plays. If it's Rescue Ace, the same thing applies. They've already used their normal, and it's going to be hard for them, especially in 2 cards that follow-up plays. So given that I wasn't sure exactly which deck I was up against yet, I decided to hedge and just kind of Imperm on the Poplar and stop either line. Because, like, I was like, oh, I could wait for Snake Eye Ash, but then if it's Rescue Ace, that's actually pretty awkward. I don't know, I don't know, maybe this wasn't right, but I feel like in this particular situation, it was correct to Imperm Poplar here. It was a hedge. Well, it was even a hedge, it was a safe play. I just made the super safe play, right? Okay, so we're going to turn Poplar into Link Creebo, Poplar placing itself in the spell trap. This does also proc by a Mole Cricket, so... I, of course, can't use the effect because I already did use it this turn, but if nothing else, I can take, like, a little less damage, hopefully. So, looks like one of the 2 remaining cards is Bonfire for another Poplar, but thankfully they, of course, can't search a Snake Eye Spell Trap because I already negated that effect, so... Okay, they're going to make Little Knight here. Little Knight F to banish by King Sark, and yet again, here is the Horus, the Black Flame Deity. Now, here they can tag out their own stuff in response, but still get to send the SP here. I'm telling you, this Horus, the Black Flame Deity is so much better than it reads on paper. It comes up, again, it comes up a lot more than you might think, so... Alright, I'm actually feeling overall pretty good about the position I'm in. Valor is going to come down on the Camellia, which is annoying. That's actually really annoying, because I would have really liked to make Nat Beast here against their top decks, but here I can battle at least over the Gamma and Driver, right? I'm going to sink for the Brave Musarao to try to draw some cards if they top deck a spell or a trap card for plays. And I'll even set the Sacred Tree in order to make sure I draw 3 here. So, opponent's in top deck mode here, and they just peeled Ash right off the top because they're the best player ever. They are out of Poplars, though. It looks like this person only plays 2, so they have to add Jet Synchron. However, that's not that much solace when they can simply go for Oak, Oak revive the Poplar, Poplar for the Divine Temple, and, like... Okay, so here they're going to make the Flamberge. Poplar F put itself for Oak, sorry, in the spell trap zone. Flamberge F to push back my Musarao. Temple to set up another Flamberge from deck battle phase. Could they not have, Wait, hang on. I think I see a better line my opponent could have done. Ash, send, Oak, special, Poplar, right? Activate, add. But why didn't we Temple, place a Snake Eye monster, Oak, send the monster we place, summon Flamberge. We'd still have Poplar on the field. We could link Poplar and Flamberge and just OTK. Yeah, I don't know. I found a better line for my opponent, but, you know, Yeah, it just happens sometimes. Sometimes your opponent just peels Snake Eye Ash right off the top of their deck and they just don't get punished for misplaying. But you know what? That's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not that big of a deal. Especially on ranked ladder, it's like, whatever. We just go on to the next game. Again, not a big deal at all. But yeah, that'll do it for that game and these games in general. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let us now move to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.